Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this discussion about food and environment. In next 1.5 hours, we will speak about not only what impact food, what we eat, makes on environment and world where we live, but mostly how the changing world will change probably our diet in nearest future. So my name is Sandra Kropp. I'm very happy to be moderator of this discussion, and I'm here together in studio with three excellent speakers who will join us here in the next 1.5 hours to discuss these topics more in detail, and also via internet we will talk as well with our keynote speaker when we'll introduce you in a minute. So first of all, I would like to introduce you to Vaira Obuka. Vaira is researcher and she's environmental scientist, and mostly she works with renewable materials and think how to make these things better and easier in our nowadays life. Also we have Uģis Rotbergs. Uģis is also researcher. He represents Institute of Environmental Solutions, and also Pasaules Dabas Fonds, who in Latvia is an associate member of WWF. And also I would need to say that Uģis' passion is cooking, so I think it will be interesting to talk with Uģis about food, environment, and everything what will change our diet in nearest future. We have also Mārtiņš Sirmais. Mārtiņš, maybe I could say, is the person who cooks better of all of us here.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. He's chef and he's also owner of restaurant Trīs Pavāru restaurants here in Latvia. And also I know that Mārtiņš has made many interesting TV shows about traveling and cooking and eating, so the perspective will be quite interesting and wide. And of course I would like to introduce you also with Sandra van Kampen. Sandra is food expert from Netherlands, and Sandra has really interesting experience in last 10 years when she worked hard to transform the food system in Netherlands and make it fair, healthy, and sustainable. Sandra is also co-author of various books about these topics, and I think this is the right moment to give you a floor because Netherlands in general is quite interesting example. Geographically small country that feeds quite a big part of our region here in Europe at least, and you have interesting things what to share with us about how the food system has changed in Netherlands. So Sandra, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll just immediately start my presentation then. That's probably the wisest things to do. Can you see it properly right now?
Yes, everything is fine.
Okay, great. Then I'll just start. You'll be mainly looking at my presentation and not at me, so everything's fine. Thank you very much. My name is Sandra van Kampen. The Dutch Embassy in Riga asked me to inspire you today with how the Netherlands are working on the food system of the future. And of course, I'm very proud to do so. Just a little bit about myself. For almost 20 years, I'm deeply interested in the sociological aspects of sustainable transition. I've been engaged in the transition of our food system for 10 years now. And since I have my own company, I organize masterclasses, I organize workshops, I lead campaigns and projects that all contribute to this transition. And I'm regarded founding mother of the Dutch Transition Coalition of the Food System, a partnership of around 150 frontrunner companies and organizations. And 2 years ago, together with my partner, I wrote a book and organized a multimedia project about the Dutch food transition. I'd like to share with you a little bit about the position of the Netherlands in the world food system. As you remarked, Netherlands is a very, very tiny country, about 2/3 of the size of Latvia, but with 17 million inhabitants and a high agricultural and food production, we are a big player in the worldwide food and agriculture business. After the United States, we are the second largest food exporter in the world. And every year we export for over 94 billion euros worth of agriculture products, all of which are therefore made in this tiny country. To give a few examples, we, to start with, have a lot of cattle, 1.7 million cows, 12.5 million pigs, over 100 million poultry pieces. We also make a lot of potatoes, over 3.5 million tons of potatoes, and over 900 million kilograms of tomatoes, and a lot more, but I'll spare you the details. This hyper-efficient food system started after World War II to prevent people from ever being hungry again. And I think we did a pretty good job. But at the same time, we face a situation that this hyper-efficient food system has a lot of losers too. For example, farmers. Since over a year, they're regularly protesting in the Netherlands. This photo is from fall 2019, against the low prices, the environmental rules, the lack of political support. And I think animals are also losers of this food system. The animal welfare, with more than 120 million pieces of cattle living in stables, it's not something to be joyful about. And also biodiversity is a big loser of this system. You're looking at the grotto, which is like an icon of this biodiversity problem in the Netherlands. And it's facing extinction because of our dairy farms. Also the landscape. A lot of people experience a form of landscape pain because they used to look at green and diverse meadows with a lot of birds and insects in it. But nowadays the view has radically changed into monotonous green fields with no cows in it, because it's more efficient to keep them inside. We're looking at cornfields to feed the cattle and acres of greenhouses and an industrial agricultural landscape. Also, soil is a big loser of this system. It's becoming less and less fertile, but also suffers from climate change. For the last 3 years, we had very, very dry summers in the Netherlands. And last but not least, I think people are a big loser too from this system. Not only do they increasingly suffer from air pollution, they also suffer from a lot of welfare diseases like cancer or diabetes due to an unhealthy diet. And nowadays, unhealthy food causes more deaths than smoking. And of course, there are still almost as many people starving from hunger or malnutrition. And I do not mean to offend anyone, but I truly believe our current food system has no future. We simply cannot go on producing the way we do right now, and we cannot go on consuming the way we do right now. There are just too many losers of this current system. But the good news is, I also truly believe that we're smart enough to fix this system. And we can design new food systems that are fair, clean, and healthy. We can design systems that include circular production, diversification of cropping systems, zero food waste, plant-based diets, true pricing, new business models, shorter food change, locally grown food, new technologies, and preventive healthcare. When you look at our future diet, an international group of scientists published in 2019 in The Lancet some important guidelines. And I just added a few myself, but these group of scientists, they say we should in the future eat more vegetables, more fruits, less animal proteins, and we could perhaps choose for a diet based on like 80% plant-based proteins like pulses, mushrooms, nuts, and not more than 20% animal-based proteins. We also should eat less sugar, more whole grains. And I think in addition, there's also room for future foods, milk from grass, algae, cultured meat, novel foods, insects, and things like that. But we'll be speaking on that today. And I think there's also a big role for personalized food and growing your own food, which more and more people do these days. But the good news also is that hundreds of front runners are active in the Netherlands, and they all take a piece in this huge puzzle and come up with new solutions for a food system that is fair, healthy, and sustainable. And I'd just like to introduce a few to you, starting with Jeroen, the Netherlands' most innovative farmer from the southwest of the Netherlands. He is master of regenerative agriculture and knows a lot about healthy soil. He grows all kinds of innovative crops, including soy, on 300 hectares of arable land. He's also co-founder of Rechtstreeks, a social enterprise in Rotterdam, that sells food directly from farmers to consumers. And Klompen himself makes a well-appreciated soy sauce from his beans. And please meet Minke. She is the founder of the Floating Farm in Rotterdam. And this is a floating pontoon in the ports of Rotterdam, where cows produce milk for the city, and which in return are fed with residual flows from the city. And this is a nice example of circular production on a very small scale. I'd like you to meet Geert. He is founder of Herenboeren, and that can be best translated as gentleman farmer. And this is a concept where 200 households each invest 2,000 euros to start their own farm. And they hire a farmer and thus produce food for themselves. And I'd like you to meet Jaap. And he's the vegetarian butcher. And in 10 years, he successfully built up his company by making the best tasting meat substitutes that are, in his words, an ode to the taste of meat. Last year, he sold his company to Unilever, and at this moment, he started a new project to make milk from grass. So to speak, without needing the cow to produce the milk for you. And I'd like you to meet Mark, and he made it his life goal to create cultured meat. And the expectation is that within 6 or 7 years, we're able to eat meat out of a laboratory. And please meet Valerie and Koen, who introduced knakwortel in the Netherlands, which can be best translated as a cracking carrot. But in Holland, knakworst is also the sausage in a hot dog. And Valerie and Koen, sorry, I'm going too fast, replaced this sausage by an identical looking piece, only it's a carrot. And please meet Sander, who was the first Dutchman to create a burger made out of insects like crickets. And then there's Charlotte, and she produces delicious vegan or organic cheeses and works together with several shops and caterers. And I'd also like you to meet John, who made a business out of vertical farming and worked for more than 10 years on his project. And this company is now growing vegetables powered by green electricity, and he brings fresh, flawless produce directly into the city of Amsterdam. And finally, I'd like you to meet Albert. He's a chef in the northern part of Holland, and he was the founder of Dutch Cuisine, a movement of frontrunner chefs who reinvent the Dutch kitchen by using not more than 80% products from the Netherlands and 20% products from abroad on the plate. And also these chefs use a maximum of 20% animal-based ingredients on the plate, and they use 80% plant-based ingredients. And Albert not only runs his own restaurant, but also teaches loads of young chefs how to cook based on these principles. So you see a lot of people coming up with solutions for the food system in the future. But will it be enough? I actually doubt it. We will also need a strong policy, more research, good education, a helping financial and economic system, and a lot of willing consumers that are able to change their eating habits. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation and all these nice examples. I have already a question to you about the last, what you mentioned about these consumers who want to eat all this. Do you see already in your country that you have enough people who want really to eat milk, to drink milk which is made from grass, or eat artificial meat, or hamburger from insects?
I think this is, as probably everywhere around the world, it's a small group of people. I think like 10-15%, which are really into changing the food system, which read a lot about it, we think about it, maybe talk to farmers about it. But all these introductions in the market of the examples I showed you before, they go slowly. But I think the number, and also due to Corona, the number of people that are really, they have a lot of awareness about this food system is really growing. And but still, most people think we need all the consumers to eat differently or change their behavior. I think with a group of like 10-15% of the consumers that are also front runners, you can really change the system in terms of creating a level field in the market.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to ask our speakers here in studio as well. Do you see these front runners like really the first step how to change the system, or this is already some kind of second, third, or even the last step how to change the system? Uģis, I will start with you.
Thanks. I have a feeling that we don't have in our country, so to say, many front runners. We are rather responsive to the EU strategies and bigger pictures. As intelligent beings, I think as individuals, we can understand that we have to fix both the environmental and health aspect of the whole food chain. But as a social being, humans, we have to figure out how we will arrive at that solution. So I think if we compare to the situation with the Netherlands, or we have a lot to learn, and I think it's very timely discussion because we have coming all the Green Deal from Europe, and we have more financial support systems, and we will have climate targets on agriculture, and it's not only agriculture, it's whole food production chain. So I think we have a lot to do, and consumers will not be enough force to do that. You have to have political leadership, you have maybe some kind of opinion leaders and celebrities and all the traditional stuff if you want to change behaviors and the markets.
So, but we start with which level? With policy level or with
all of them? There is no one kind of, it's like with the food, which is most important nutrient. You have to have policy levels like it was in the last slide. You have to have financial support systems. Europe is building up a just financial system which is for just transition, so to say, involve people in transition, but they shouldn't suffer from that transition financially also. But a lot of the answer is in new technologies we don't even know. It's not necessarily to have soil or land for food production nowadays. It can be through enzymes, or some of the food production is going to move into the cities, and we basically don't know the future, but we can anticipate that many changes will happen. But the utmost goal as a humanity, I think, is to really sustainably, with low impact on environment, create good food for your health. It's not only bad for environment to have bad food production. As Sandra already said, it's more people die from food-induced diseases rather than from crime and drugs and smoking or whatever. It's heart diseases, blood diseases, diabetes, God knows what else.
Yeah, so we have a very complex situation what to talk about, and the question is, do we solve it at the same time, all these levels, or we take step by step? So what's your opinion, impression after what you saw about these examples in Netherlands?
It's very interesting, thank you. I think the main step is to work with the environmental awareness through all levels. And it's not only politics and individuals, it's business people, it's industry at all. Because, for example, circular economy approach is very important to sustainable food chain. To make it happen, you need to have this really good and impressive environmental awareness knowledge. And these leaders in Latvia, for example, they can do it if they want to do it. So, and I think it's a huge work for the universities as well to spread this knowledge about these systems. Because, for example, like globally, like all the food made, there's 30% as a waste in the end. And it's crazy because people are starving and people are producing so much of the food, and it's crazy. And the financial losses of this food waste is 2.3 trillion euros every year. And
also, if we talk about the greenhouse gas emissions,
of
food
course,
waste actually is responsible for, I think, 6% of them, and it's quite
yes,
5%.
and it's like 3.3 gigatons of the CO2 emissions is only from the food.
Only from, not only producing, but wasting.
Wasting and producing, because you need to have like a lot of fertilizers, and fertilizers are not good right nowadays. We are working, for example, in university, we are working with new ideas about new fertilizers, which are biodegradable, which are good for the system, for the environment.
So you focus more on this level, what we can do to change the way how we produce food.
Yes, I think it's very important to speak with the people who are producing, to gain this knowledge that they think, they understand that it's very important. And it's important to talk with the society. That's, come on, we can do it. Because in Latvia, for example, like all the times, the market is very important for us. We go to the market, and what is in the market? There is things from our nature. And
it depends. Someone goes to market, someone only says, I can go to supermarket.
Yes, of course, but it's very important. I think the last thing I can say about this is very important to use locally made food, locally produced food. And if you do it, you can eat all.
Well, of course, about locally made food as well, we can talk quite a lot, and yes. I think we will do it a bit later, but I would like to ask Martin as well. You see everything, like when you are in a restaurant, what people want to eat. Do they want to change their diet? Are they ready to change what they're eating?
Yeah, it's changing. Definitely it's changing, and it will change. Like, I remember when I started years ago, it was like, 80% was protein and 20% was vegetables. Now it's opposite, and it is in restaurants. But it's all about prices. It's all about money, and if there will be no financial support and no politics going that way, there will be no leaders who are gonna start to change that. So I think it's like a political issue, and leadership and financial support from the restaurant point of view, it's changeable. I can see and I can change it every day, but we have to understand that restaurant is not the playground where the things change. The things change in a bigger values, in a factories where the food, where people understand some of them. Then the fast food is restaurant. It's they are the players. We are monkey business.
When you said about 80% vegetables and 20% meat and proteins, that actually has changed. Is it because people who come to a restaurant, they want to change their diet and they actually ask you to make such a dish? Or this is the restaurant that pushes like, I will...
It's mixed mash. So basically, we change because our client wants that. But our client, if we see honestly, they are not working in the fields anymore, not in the construction anymore. So they are sending the invoices to each other. So they basically sitting down and touching the touch screen. So they don't need so much protein. So they don't want to feel this heavy, fatty meal.
But the habit is habit, and sometimes it's very hard to change it because we are just used to it.
But I think globally it's not a problem. Then the meat is totally needed because the people are just getting lazier, and it will be.
How you and your colleagues, maybe in your field, react on these ideas about artificial meat? Okay, it's super expensive for a while. But it's meat which is grown in laboratory. It's nothing artificial. It's just made from really few real cells. So you don't need to have animal. You don't need to raise it. You don't need to kill him afterwards. You just have real meat. Do you see it as a perspective, or it's just a dream?
No, it will be. It will be, definitely. We can see, like, we serve in a restaurant now, in a Three Chefs restaurant, we sell a fake caviar made from the algae, and people don't know the difference.
Really? They don't say?
And I served them, and I said, this is the fake caviar. And they, but it looks like real one, and they don't look like, it tastes like real one. They don't know the difference. They are not so educated to know the real caviar taste. But yeah, they like it, and we can make that, and it's happening, and the same with the ants. So we do the birch syrup, reduce down the birch sap, and there is an ants inside. It's a nice taste. So there is some trends what we are using at the day, but it's just a small amount
Are you ready to go further? As Sandra mentioned, these insects as well, and maybe some earthworms in diet. Okay, for earthworms it's a bit too early to talk. It's still scientifically still in the process, I understood. But from other countries, do we have experience to take some insects to eat?
Yeah, we have to understand where we are, where we're located. We are located in a, ex-Soviet country in East Europe, and we have never been the leaders. No way. So, we are just going where the flow goes. So, of course, the big players will start to set the trends, and we will just, move with them and maybe catch some trends and maybe go somewhere further. But yeah, as a human beings, as a Latvians, we've always been outside of the game.
But do you think we are quite conservative as consumers in Latvia?
I think people, in definition, are very conservative, but I would disagree with Martin that restaurants is only monkey business. He and his partners are doing an excellent job and create storytelling and lifestyle, so to say, influential people who come with the restaurant with idea. They can be kind of opinion leaders, and that's what's happening. If you look on the diets as such, there's two trends. One is historical, and one is that historically people eat what is in their geographical surroundings. And now in this extremely connected world, the food is traveling all around, good or bad. We are not necessarily dependent now on our geographical location for the food. And that is part of the environmental problem as well. But imagine there was some time in history where there were potatoes around in Europe, for instance, or we have, 500 kilometers of the coastal line, or inland waters, and we almost don't eat freshwater fish, for instance, which is a very good protein. So there is a chance, if you break down the whole what you eat for either nutritional value or for pleasure, and then the earthworm is no different than the certain part of meat. It's a protein.
But that's the point, from protein point of view, it's even, researchers usually say, it's even better, it's environmentally more friendly. The question is, do people want to eat earthworms? Okay, that's why you go further.
But if I will tell my mom and serve mussels, she would probably never eat. But in Latvian hill forts, these old settlements, they are full of shells where people were eating and collecting from the river mussels. And now we only think those are Frenchmen, Eating habits is about education. If you have hard times, you suddenly start completely differently eat. And if you have good times, you want something else. And this artificial caviar stuff is, I think it's an excellent example, because people also are cultural beings and social. They eat what they see. It's not only what they know about. Yeah.
And I think
sausage making.
And sometimes it's better not to see. But the researchers understood their work as well, how to kind of pack that environmentally good product for us, which are maybe conservative users, like the same earthworm. Actually, no one wants to eat this as a whole worm. It's a question of powder, but you use like a, I don't know, additive or something.
Yeah, of course. The researchers work with this idea, for example, in University of Agriculture in Latvia a lot. And they are producing this worm bread or something. And I have been, for example, in one exhibition where was candy with the worm inside, and it was interesting to try it. I mean, like, you need to have this open mind, and in our society, people mostly do not have open mind for these new things. But for example, this vegan food production, everything, what's coming into the Latvia, it's good that it's coming, because I think vegan food is good. Vegetarians do a good job for the environment, but it's sad that it's coming outside from Latvia. So if we will produce, for example, vegan food more, it will be really nice. This is locally made food, and
but we also need to take account that people actually eat what they like to eat, what they have used to eat, and not everyone will be able to switch for vegetarian or even vegan.
For example, my friends and family and people around, they are open-minded. They really want to try it, and it is part from Latvia. So, and I think it will grow and grow. This feeling, people will see this environmental awareness in this way. That hey, I can do some changes as well. Not only politicians can do changes or small businesses.
How we said at the beginning, we need to do these changes in all levels.
Yes.
But I would like to remind also our listeners that you can ask questions to our speakers here in studio, and also Sandra, who is following from Netherlands, everything. You need to write your question to menti.com, and you need to remember the password 203565. And then you can join our discussion and write down your question. I will address as well to the speaker. So I remind you the password 203565. So a bit complicated to remember and to really put an effort to ask your question here. Sandra, you are here with us as well. What you can say about how conservative are people in Netherlands, and did you really use a lot of effort to change the society, to be innovative, to really accept the new things and to be ready for these future diets?
I find it hard to compare the Dutch people with the Latvian people. I think people here are also conservative, and together they're also into novelties. I think everywhere where you want to start changing the food system, it is very hard. I think, but maybe that's a difference between Latvia and the Netherlands. We feel we're also part of the problem because we are a highly efficient agriculture exporter, and we make a lot of products, and you see that all around you. Maybe people feel the need, and we also experience the last few years, we really experience climate change and change of biodiversity. And we see a lot of people looking around us which are overweight, which have welfare diseases. So compared to like 10 years ago, I think the problem is more part of the Dutch society right now.
So you mentioned this climate change. We can say that you, because of the climate change, so that you can't grow some concrete plants or cultures there in Netherlands. And that's why you need to actually already change your diet. So are we ready here to face this challenge and to say that it's not a question anymore about do we want it or not, but we should?
I want a little bit reflect what Sandra said about this can't compare or compare. And it's not about post-Soviet or whatever. When industrial life was invented, so to say, in Great Britain, and then through France, it moved eastwards through centuries. So we have here copied food system, which was in the western part, maybe 100 years old, whatever. So, but nowadays, the knowledge is universal. You don't need to travel physically to change behaviors. The knowledge is available. There is digital technologies. So we are in advanced position to jump in the future, so to say, avoiding historical step-by-step food systems. Even the crops and different cultures. Potatoes arrived in Spain at one time, and we had in Latvia a much longer period later. So that is a chance for us. Another thing is, as I said, as a social beings, we can come together and certainly solve them. Part of the climate is a big system, but which results in environmental local disruptions, either water regimes, droughts, floods, and whatsoever. And for intelligent people, this is inevitable task to solve. We have to do it. There is probably, but what is necessary to make out of this journey towards better food systems and more environmentally friendly agriculture and other food production is, it has to be supported financially, the transfer, and it has to be fun as well, I think. And that's where whatever restaurants, artists, scientists can be much more involved in making this not only as a threat, but as a kind of nice journey towards improving well-being in life.
But that's what we started to talk about, the climate change. Can we say that, I know that there will be following discussion about wine and environment, and I have heard from environmentalists and also winemakers that just because of the climate change, the amount of sugar inside the grape is changing, so it will change the winery. Can we say the same? We won't be able to, I don't know, have wheat or rice or whatever around our nature.
It's not only that. People don't realize that even plants migrate based on the temperature regimes. You might have other crops, not even about the sugar content. Salmon spawns at certain temperature levels. If they are changed, you have others. Yeah, it's also animal species are migrating, diseases are migrating, insects are migrating. So you might have unprecedented migrations of animal and plant life, which happened historically, but they were much, much slower with a bigger adaptation possibilities. So in the agriculture, for instance, you have to be smart and have to look around. So what processes, what is happening? What will be tomorrow's conditions if you want to be a smart one? You will have water disruptions, or as you said, you have to think about what sort of fertilizers or kind of weed control mechanisms, what crops you select and how you do it. So it's not only solving the problem and fixing the climate. It's already there, the climate change. So you have to look for what will determine my tomorrow. So, and we are clever people, we can do it.
So actually we talk about personalized agriculture. Can we talk like this?
Personalized.
So for each field you will measure how much fertilizer you need, what kind?
It is possible, of course, and because people are using too much fertilizer. It goes to the water systems, it goes to the forests, and it's just too much. And you just, if you use too much, it's too much money you spend, and etc., etc. So it's I think the future of the food system is very connected to these soil problems and substrates and fertilizers, biological fertilizers, and everything is happening now for that we will not need these chemicals. We will not need them to solve these problems. And everything is possible, I think, in that, because people are really working with these ideas a lot in every country in the world, in every university. They are studying that, researching, and people are really doing this research and trying to make this in production, in the business. Business and people are very interested in these substrates and etc., etc. And yeah, I think it's this possibility to produce plants in Latvia and in Europe and globally in the normal system, in the normal nature system, because everything is so connected. It's too much connected in the nature, and we are the part of the nature, and every plant is part of the nature. We are part of the nature, and we can do this change, I think.
Marty and Sandra, maybe you want to add something for the change we are ready to make, or how smart we are going towards.
No, I just want to agree. So yeah, nothing is stable. Everything is the same. The example with the potato and so on. Everything is changing all the time. We think this conservativeness. We think that it's now and it's always been like that. That it's been different and it's gonna be different.
So also 100 years ago,
nothing is stable. Just hungriness is stable always for all the human beings. The hungriness, and we just change the pluses and minuses.
Yeah, and that's as well a question: why in this world, when we have plenty of food, we have a lot of food which is going for food waste, we still have starving people on this planet, and we have overweight problem at the same time.
Yeah, thanks for showing on me. Yeah.
No, that wasn't the example. Sandra, do you want to add something to this discussion before what we talked about the smart agriculture and very precise way how to address these problems?
Well, two things that I noticed in the discussion before. I'm very much with Yugis. I don't know if I'll pronounce your name correctly, but you said not being a big player in this agriculture system might be an advantage. I think so too. Make it your advantage in Latvia. You don't have to get rid of all these bad habits. That's also an advantage. We do in the Netherlands have to get rid of all these bad habits, and we're in this transition right now. And the second thing, do you have a youth movement on food in Latvia? Because I think in the Netherlands we have a part of the slow food movement, and they're called the Slow Food Youth Network. And I think these are very, very effective young people that are really changing the food system. They all start companies. Some people are more politicians or educational teachers. And it's a really, really effective movement of young people.
Marty, maybe you can say something about this. Do we have...
As a youngster.
No, I mean, do you
Thank you.
feel this within consumers that the slow food movement is...
Yeah,
really
the slow food movement, it's like, here has been a bit political because the one chef we all know who actually privatized the slow food movement. Now it's changed, but from the youngster point of view, yeah, we can, like in a restaurant, or we have this ramen shop. So yeah, they're asking more for the vegan stuff. They're asking more for the, oat milk, the fake stuff. They like the fake stuff. They don't want the real stuff because they think then the real stuff is poisonous. So yeah, it's not a movement, but you can see like small habits, and it's changing. Yeah, but it's not like a huge movement, and there is not so many people involved. You can see that mostly in Instagram and so on. So actually, they speak about it. They say then they are vegan, but I know from the restaurant perspective. So if they say, then it's going to be like 20% of them which are saying, "I'm vegan, I'm environmentalist, so I'm the right guy." But when they come and order and buy the stuff and vote with the money, much less.
Yeah, I want to jump in as a kind of environmental organization representative, and it's very easy to say vegan is environmentally friendly, which is not true. Yeah. It's a choice, and being vegan food can be produced environmentally unfriendly or friendly. So, and if we talk about the impact, I think the food issue is so complicated that at the restaurant or in the shop, it's pretty difficult to explain what is environmentally friendly or non-friendly. Then you have local or imported food, but it's how much energy has gone into it, how much nutrients, how much has left in the environment. So I think this is an extremely complex issue which doesn't have easy answer right now, how to go about it. But definitely consumers can put a pressure on it. But we should be open-minded that none of these interventions is a single answer to a complex problem. Yeah.
We have a few questions as well in our this opportunity for people to ask. So the first question, do you think our food system will ever change only to serve our functional needs? That is, the future we won't be able to eat for pleasure. So actually it will be just like we need to eat just because it's our need to eat, not because we just want to enjoy it.
Hopefully. I want to change the job.
but
yeah, it's going that way. You can see then people are actually getting in a food. They just need a gas station. You can see in a gas station people just consume whatever. Yeah, there is a movement like that, and there is an opposite movement, which is this my way. So what they do, they eat for the pleasure. They don't eat for the energy. So this is, and what is the percentage? I don't know. I just see then people are getting more poor and less educated in a food point of view.
I think the world will be, or the civilization will become much more poor if people would not experience pleasure when eating. You have all sorts of rituals, be it religious or celebrations everywhere. It's also a way how you program yourself. It's not only the food quality, but what you think about the food. That's why always everyone, you see, when you have prayings before eating and things like that, it is one of the pleasures of the life. The problem is that we have to eat good food with pleasure, and it has to be produced in a nice way. And if we know that this is in a nice way, it's even much better for you. Think about Latvians picking up mushrooms. The mushroom you have picked up in the forest with no impact, It's much more tastier than the mushroom which is bought in kind of shop. So this is also social and cultural dimension. It's not only nutritional value of the food.
Of course, just not because of nutrition.
Yeah.
There's also one question. Healthy food requires innovative technology, but also some land. How do you see the conflicting interests of food, bioproducts, and biodiversity in competition with scarce land areas?
I think it's a bogus statement that innovative food needs more land. You can produce food without land. That's one thing. And if we look on Latvia and compare to Netherlands, Sandra already mentioned that this is a small country, Netherlands. We are bigger than Netherlands. And and as a population, we are very small. We have fantastic amount of biologically productive land to produce, mein Gott, you know. Yeah? If Netherlands can be a second one, talking about this industrial and whatsoever, we have enormous chance to do like fantastic things. We don't have mega players in the agriculture, except maybe some big landowners who can oppose that transfer. We can be an example for the good transition to the better food. We are in a starting point as our better, that we are not that much developed. So, but there's not need for the land. It's need for added value products, behavioral changes, eating habit changes. What's the school dinners? What's the hospital dinners? What do you do for pregnant ladies? What's the best food? What is for kids? What's for pensioners or elderly seniors? So it's a massive issue.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to add something to what we heard till now.
Yes, I really want to say that I'm proud that mostly every Latvian has this countryside. I have my countryside, and we are producing our food and trying to produce at least herbals and tomatoes and potatoes, and it's so tasty. And yeah, I'm really happy that at least mostly every Latvian goes to countryside every weekend and are doing something, and there is this really nice happenings when you are taking out these potatoes and and it's so nice. And I think and the market, what is going on in the market, I don't know, I hope that in the market mostly the food will be produced in Latvia. And what else? I just wanted to add about this comment about the veganism and vegetarianism. It's like you said, it's so crazy. You go to the shop and there is this vegan things and but they are not produced locally. They are produced in the very crazy fertilizer lands and and yeah. So
in La La Land.
In La La Land. There is one question which actually talks about this. Is it better to be a vegan and buy vegan food at supermarket which is made in other country, or eat all meat, fish, and milk, but only local food? So this is the question about you go for a vegan, but you take the food from other countries with a lot of maybe. Yeah, you want to tell.
I think there is this vegan stuff. It's overrated. Like we probably agree, all of us. So yeah, this vegan. I've been vegan. I've been vegetarian, and I remember eating, instant noodles and crisps because I'm vegan and I just have to survive because I can't really afford and I don't know how to cook. So this vegan stuff, it can be more poisonous actually. And it's not about nationalism. It's not about like local country, because we know agriculture here is like super shitty condition as well. Some of them more than Netherlands, and they use fertilizers more than them because they know how to count the money. So I saw the analysis. So it's yes and no. So it's not nationalism and it's not vegan. The truth is brain.
Just to answer very quickly that question. Currently in the market, a consumer can't answer that question, because the question would be, which of the choices is more environmentally friendly and healthier? Total impact. And that is the answer. But through market mechanisms, through pricing mechanisms, we don't know that. Or through statements, whatever, or logos or labels. So this is where we need as a society to work a lot, that market signals that and prefers good products versus bad products. It's not that choice. It's a choice of impact and your health.
Talking about this local and not local food, we often, of course, hear, and also there are guidelines from the United Nations, eat locally so you will reduce emissions. But how it happens, I read one report when they said that actually local matters if you really eat in season these things. But for example, if you want to grow in United Kingdom salad in winter, locally in some greenhouse or somewhere else, it's much better to take it from Spain, which is still growing there, like under the clear sky. So the question is, do we always push for, let's go for local, but maybe sometimes it's better eat tomatoes from Spain, not from Latvia?
It depends, of course. It depends on sun.
But local is eco-nationalism. It's a good stuff, but it's the same answer. You have to look of that, whatever, beef or whatever. Do you get the kind of free-range beef with no impact, or you travel from Argentina or soybean-based or whatever? It's about impacts, and you're both on health and environment. So you can't answer by food miles which has been traveled, because then you calculate only climate impact. The local food can be produced with enormous overload of pesticides and whatever. So we have these bogus indicators, but the good thing about those are that we are still as a society striving for the kind of, the direction is right. It's probably not the right instrument, but we want something better. That is a good starting point.
Sandra, I have a question to you. Do you face this kind of local, like pushing for local also in Netherlands, or you are already producing food for half of the Europe? So what's the situation there?
That's right. We could in the Netherlands easily feed ourselves. We produce like 5 times, 6 times the amount of food we eat ourselves. But the problem is it's more difficult than that. At the same time, we export our products and we import the same products. So we're exporting like paprikas, these red peppers, and we're importing them as well. So this is a really interesting issue. And I think, well, for this, my rule is always like, as a goal, you could eat like 80% out of your own region and import 20%, because we'll always need coffee. Otherwise, the economy will not survive. For me, it's more like, it's not like a holy grail or a religion to eat local, but I think it's the best way to change the food system. And then not only locally grown food, but food purchased directly from farmers in a short food chain. That really is a game changer, I think. And other than that, it's a way to reconnect with where your food comes from. And that's part of the problem, that most people, they have no clue where the food grows or is produced. And so it doesn't have a value. And that's, I think, a big problem that causes a lot of food waste as well. So these are the two things for which I say, yes, you should really make local food more important than it's right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you have something to add for the...
About the local food, I agree with me that it's totally better to use local food and eat that. But as an environmental scientist, I guess you can do for every product in the world, you can make this life cycle analysis, and then you will see that.
The question, as a consumer, are we able to do it, and do we have enough knowledge to do it, time for that, and habit for that?
I think it's not as a consumer, but the producer. It's the labels. I think it's the work with the labels as well. For example, if you see this label on there is some symbol or something that it's really nice. For example, ECOS certain cosmetics field.
But if for producer it's cheaper not to be environmentally friendly, what to do? Do we have regulation that push towards that?
Yeah, but that's what I said. We have to create market and financial support systems which favors good stuff. Because after all, if you are eating bad stuff, you pay your whatever healthcare bills and whatever. And also we have very narrow understanding what means health. It's not about not being sick. It's about well-being, both socially, culturally, physically, and that is what is kind of somehow pushed out of the picture, that this well-being it's not being sick is not enough, And of course, if you go in the market, and especially in our economy where it's not so many people well off financially, you vote with on the market you vote with your kind of wallet and not with your opinion. So, and that has to be changed. But of course, the consumer as an end user of a certain product can't be responsible for analyzing everything. It has to be food systems, production systems, authorities. There's a lot of things to do, but we have to create the right thing to do. As you said, life cycle. No one tells on the product the life cycle. It says, oh, this has been produced, good packaging, we can recycle this. Or it has been grown up in EU or biologically grown, but maybe processed badly or other way around. So there's a task to do.
Do you see that it will really be reality, that we will find such a labels on our products in supermarkets?
But market is not the only one. Support systems to the farms is the other one. We are supporting currently with our enormous EU budget bad behavior in the countryside. Europe is going to change that. It's market is not a single mechanism. You have policy instruments, support mechanisms, fining, taxing. We have many instruments. We simply want the patient more healthy. It's not one pill that will change their life, like Viagra or whatever.
How fast actually we can change this food system? You talk about changing this food system, changing the system. Does it take years, decades, or for how long time?
I was born in Soviet times. I didn't know what is yogurt. I didn't know what is crisps or cereals. And they were not around. We simply think that we are conservative, but we are not. We are not. The changes are seafood. We didn't have any seafood. We were eating fish, but nothing else than that. The way how we make, or the bread, for instance, the varieties of cereals or whatever. Just name any product.
And actually, that change happened very fast, right? You didn't need to convince people to eat cereals, for example.
Yeah, talking about the strategies of the European environmental legislation, for example, the Green Deal, the new Green Deal strategy is very important because, for example, under this European Green Deal is the question about the transition to a sustainable EU food system. And they are talking about farm-to-fork strategy, which means that you go to these farms and you get this food here locally. And they are talking in this new directive about the waste management as well a lot, because it's predicted to increase the waste to increase by 70% in 2050.
Food waste, or just...
Not only food waste, because under food waste there is packaging waste, and the packaging waste is huge, and it is plastic, and the plastic waste is the craziest thing ever, because only 2% plastic the world is recycled, and it started 1950 when people started to produce plastics. Only 2% is recycled. So everything is in the landfills or in the oceans. And it's so connected that, come on, if the oceans are full of the plastic lands, for example, and 50% of the plastic objects are made for the single use nowadays. And the packaging strategies are very huge now as well. For example, just some days ago, I saw the picture where every potato was in the plastic. And What is that?
Corona helps.
Corona helps.
But of course, you
like-
mentioned these months when we really had these lockdowns everywhere in Europe. Tell me, who was taking salad, just open salad and shelves?
actually
Or you
forbidden.
just
You
took
can't do
it in plastic, and in that maybe time you said, okay, I want to choose it in a plastic bag.
Okay, but
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, about all this topic, I think then there is a politics, there is like people, everything is connected, all this stuff. But the only thing that actually counts in our society, in this capitalism, is money. So if the price for that ingredient, for that product, will be correct and lower and subsidized and just tuned in, and you just have the choice, because now people buy the cheapest stuff. So if all the European, all those things that we talked before, if you just put the price correct and the people can afford it, they will buy it.
So what is the first step? What
It's
we
not
need to
about
do
labeling, because labeling is all around.
First step is to understand that market is not perfect in this relation, and I fully agree with Martic. You have to discriminate through taxes or whatever in favor of good environmental performance and good health, and because money is the only language communicate where the consumer and producer communicates. So, but just coming back to the plastic, sometimes again, like with vegan, this discussion about the plastic goes a little bit sideways. Plastic is fantastic material because it's non-degradable, but simply what bad things we do for bad purposes we use, and we waste kind of microplastics in the ocean, and we do. Pardon?
Microplastic in rain.
Yeah, it's everywhere,
exactly.
of
Yeah,
course.
it's everywhere. Yeah, but so not the material is bad, you know.
Of course, the way how we use it.
And it's a fantastic. This should be, if you make, for instance, paper from plastic, you can print and print and print and print and just wash off the. Just kidding. So and this sometimes, if we go for easy answers, then we say, oh, vegan, environmentally friendly, plastic bad. So we have to be a little bit more thoughtful.
Yeah, there's also one question which actually is more like comment about that eating and experimenting with vegetarian food is quite expensive, and actually people would like to do it much more, and it's again a question about the price. But I would like to ask you also one question. We talked before here about how this changing world will maybe change our diet here, but there is still in this world so many people who are starving. Do we need, when we talk about the food systems here in Europe, to think about these global issues and challenges, and do they actually affect us here in Europe? Or it's...
I think it's very much beyond today's discussion, because starvation of people, it's not about food, it's about the poverty, lack of education, women's rights, certain religions which enhance or disagree with the birth control. It's not that there is, as you said, we are on the one side we are wasting food, you know, and on the other side we have starving people. Yeah, on the one, and we have on the one side starving people, and then we have majority is dying from heart disease and diabetes. You know.
But this hunger you mentioned, of course, there are all
that's
reasons.
That's a political. It's more complex issue. The poverty is about technological transfers, how the patents work, that empower those people. Like.
But how about climate change? For example, these societies in Africa, Asia.
The biggest polluters in the climate change is the ones who live the best lives, not the poor ones.
No, and that's why I wanted to ask how these people are facing even more these problems. Do we will have in the world enough people who just can support themselves with the food, or we will face even that half of the world
I think
maybe...
they are the most vulnerable people, and not only kind of financially or poverty-wise, it's also there geographically wise. That's where the climate change will hit the hardest, where the so to say, Central Africa or Southeast Asia. That's what the whole prediction models is. That is an urgent problem to make this world more stable. It's a security issue as well, you know.
Sandra, I would like to ask you, how do you see, will it in the nearest future really worsen the situation, and will we face in Europe this situation much more clear, like people in other regions, they are starving and the poverty is just raising because of the climate change issues as well?
Yeah, I find it really hard to make some comments on this issue. I really fear that this situation will worsen the next few years, because climate change is really affecting people in Africa and vulnerable people. And I think we in the West, especially in the Netherlands, we produce a lot of food. So in a way, I don't think we're safe. We're not immune for climate change, actually not. But we still have a large food production. And I think it also is maybe wars in people, between continents, countries. So yeah, it depends on what mood I am in. If I have a positive mood, I think we can fix this. We're smart enough to really change the system. We're smart enough to change our habits. But when I'm in a negative mood, looking at the world situation right now makes me very sad.
Thank you. You have some comments also in studio about this. Like, do we need to take any action, and we have concrete plans what to do, or you kind of feel
it's a global issue. This is like a global.
But we are part of the global.
Yeah, but this is like big guys have to do that. As a chef, I can do this small monkey business I'm doing, making a fake caviar. I'm not the environmentalist. So the big guys, the super big guys, have to change that. Like, this is what the Greta is doing,
Oh, there's also a question.
Yeah, but all those big guys, and it's a global, it's economical question, it's political issue, it's like super huge issues. And as we know, and we all read the mass media all around the world, and it's super not stable now. All this corona, in this position, actually the rich guy is getting more richer and the poor guy is getting more poor, and it's changing all the time.
But there's a question about connections this time in discussion. Do you feel that
and
we
the guys
have enough?
who is in power now, they are quite stupid, as we all know, like the Trump and all those guys. So they are not caring about that. This is my opinion.
About these connections between us and people who
know,
we always say they're somewhere far away. It's not our
but it's
thing.
a little bit strange. We are here in Latvian studio, three monkey business performers discussing again. But just think about Latvia alone. There is plenty of food, but how many Latvian people are having healthy diets? So, and that, look at me. Of course, this is some other explanations, but. It's not necessarily also the poverty. It's, as I said, what we are eating. And poverty is a complex global issue, and education can help, international aid and transfer. And just remember, before we joined the EU, or the early years of EU, when Europe was dumping our food surplus to our markets, they were killing Latvian farmers. And to a certain extent, that's big producers are doing it elsewhere in the world. So it's not about giving a food, it's about giving the instruments to survive and build up your own capacities,
But that's why I asked it, because of these connections that usually we don't see, and we think like it will be enough. Pretend.
We prefer not to see, And these poor nations or poor people are always underrepresented. It doesn't matter what sort of subject. Even here in domestic business or EU kind of policy, the poorer people don't have that much instruments to be visible about their problems.
But if we talk about food, what we eat and consume, let's say the same rice as an example, actually it's produced mostly in the countries where people live in these conditions. So what will happen to our future diet? Let's say that we will still want to eat rice, let's say, that is grown in India, for example. And the situation worsened in these countries that for us now seems far away and we are not so connected. Will we face this change in our future diet? That something in the world won't be so stable anymore, or there just won't be enough soil for growing the rice for us. And we will start to face these issues also in Northern Europe or elsewhere.
I think this is very, very general answer I will have. There's a clear understanding among science that uncertainty is going to increase. And the best answer to the future is to diversify all what you are doing. but that's very general stuff, you know. No one can tell you which will be the right crop to grow or what will happen exactly with that particular rice field, because rices are different, they can migrate, and one nation can eat one rice and other ones cannot, and digestive systems. So we have to prepare for big environmental changes which happen rapidly, and we have to be very, very open-minded about the possibilities in the future.
But the problem is then we will still want this rice, and it will take like years to just, okay, this is like the tuna, you know. Tuna was super nice like 10 years ago. Everybody ate tuna. Now, if you serve tuna in a restaurant, you are you're a criminal.
Yeah, but you will create the fake rice like you do with the caviar.
but this is like the people's habits. You know, they want this red wine from France, but you know, the vineyards migrate to the north, and they will ask for the, this chateau particularly, and what they will do, they will tune up and put more pesticides. I don't know. They will just start to change.
Just a little advertise. After our discussion here will be exactly about wine and environment. So keep online.
Where are the bottles?
They're still coming. But what you said about these wineries, of course, okay, they will be forced to grow there, maybe to cultivate these vineyards in other countries, and that's why now French people said already, it's shame to say, but yeah, champagne will be produced in UK maybe one day. And what I wanted to say about this tuna and other fish. So I know that WWF, I think, worked with this fish guide and products like this. So do you see that we need more to switch on this smart way of, let's say, taking one species instead of other, or taking the same fish just from taking another region and still serve it to our customers?
Yeah,
so
we are doing that. We are doing that. Of course, we are doing that. But if you go to the supermarket or market, you see the salmon is king. And it's farmed, and it's not super tasty, but it's the cheapest fish. The people are voting with the wallet again. So if we put like this, discriminations in and start to make super nice croquettes out of the sweetwater fish, you can put loads of spices in, you can make them super nice, but the habit is still on a salmon, because salmon is the king. We like the salmon.
Or just we like the taste.
Yeah. No, we don't like the taste. We like the pink color. But if you make this nice croquette out of the sweetwater fish, it's more tastier. And people in a restaurant where we serve it, they like it more than salmon. And they pay for that more. But the habit to serve it in a supermarket and to sell it in a supermarket, it's like, it's issue.
For me, as an example, to change habit, it's very good that vegetarians struggle to make hamburger which is vegetarian but looks and tastes like real meat. So this is kind of food, so to say, this is how difficult it is to change your childhood experiences, and so to say, there is one answer: travel around the world and be open-minded.
I want to ask also people who still maybe have some question. You could easily send them to us, and please remember the code 20356555, and you need to just visit menti.com, and there are still some minutes for us available to ask questions to our speakers. But if we started to talk about fish, I just remember one example as well. I know these invasive species, so-called, that are coming to our waters nowadays, and we talk about some concrete. It's about the round goby, how it was called, round goby or something. Anyway, one of the fish, which looks quite weird. I have never really tried it, and I thought I should probably. And people say like, well, you need to, need to just try to it, and then you will be like fine with the taste and how it looks. Do you see that, for example, restaurants can be the frontline runners for maybe just introducing to us fish that is for a while not so good for our environment? We would need to take them off and just serve it on plate, or it's not so easy.
I think then it's collaboration with the, like, you all know I'm kind of part in one supermarket business, so I'm doing this cooking show, so I know the supermarkets a bit. So actually the supermarkets, if the chef and a supermarket and environment, all those come together, the supermarkets with the pleasure will serve this sweet water fish croquettes, you know. And if we in a restaurant make this recipe, give it to the supermarket or to the producer and make it, it will happen, because they will trust it and they will like it. There is no problem about that. The problem is salmon, because the salmon is king. Everybody likes the salmon, and this habit you have to change it little by little. And I will not put my money in to make this sweet water croquette for 2 million, put all the advertising in that, put it in a supermarket, sell it, start to promote it, all this huge line, which is millions, because the salmon anyway, they can drop the price whatever. So it's economical question, but the question is, does it work through the restaurants? Yes, it works, but not alone, not solo.
Does it work for environmental, let's say, issues? For example, can we ask fishermen just fish out only these invasive species that we don't need, and there are only too many?
First of all, we are unprepared technologically to be very selective on the netting, on fishing, whatever. Still people are trying to invent some kind of nets which don't kill seals, for instance, because that's where the salmon concentrates. The seal comes to the kind of buffet, you know. So that's true, but also these invasive species have different reasons. One is, of course, climate change. Another one is international traffic, where the ballast waters come into, and all this connectivity around the world. And it also, the invasive species competes with the local one and changes. And it's not only fish. It's the same in the plant life and animal life. In Latvian, a little bit away, but it's jackal is already on the hunting list, shakals. And golden jackal is already in Latvia. Oh my goodness, where that came from, you know? So, but I agree with the consumers not alone will change, and always you will have front runners. I was once in, just to tell Sandra, and I think it was Arnhem Zoo in Netherlands, and in the zoo they had canteen which was full of exotic stuff, and including, I think, all sorts of, I don't know, insects and crickets and things like that. And everywhere was a description, or also plants, you know. But you go out in Latvia, it's almost everything is edible. It's almost everything is edible, you know.
You just need to know how to make it.
Exactly.
Snow.
Well, Sandra, we just mentioned you as well, and the example from your country. Do you have something to add to these examples where really with education and just really putting for this, let's say, environmental problems to make it like a real chance to solve other problems too? So, for example, do you have examples when you see, like, for example, you have some fish in the waters that you actually don't need to have so much in this, for example, one bay, and you can ask fishermen to just fish it out, and for restaurants to just serve it as a delicious meal. So we take it like the thing what we don't need to have in environment to make it real delicacy.
Well, I think, yeah, if I understand your question right, I think there's a lot to gain with proper education. People don't have a clue, actually. We're talking about the salmon. I think in Holland, maybe it's not king, but it's a very popular fish as well. The strange thing is that we also have a lot of fish in Holland, like, I don't know how you call them. We call them cockles, these double shells with small fish in it. Yeah. And we have a lot of them in Holland, but we don't eat them. We all export them to countries like Spain or France, which is really weird. And at the same time, we import fish from abroad. We have a lot of tilapia, for example, in the Dutch supermarkets. And well, yes, it's. I think it's part of the solution to show people how to cook food or species that are not as well known as others. So yeah.
So we will slowly conclude our discussion, but can you, each of you, just tell how do you see the nearest future? What will change? Will it change so very dramatically? What we will eat? One question, what we want to eat, and what we'll be forced to eat?
I think it's changing. as I mentioned before, nothing is stable. The stable is hungriness. So it will change, and it's changing, and how fast, it depends actually on global issues like this global warming, like what the scientists really were gonna put on the table, about all this economical, about the strategies. So as a chef see in a like shorter perspective, nothing's gonna change. They're gonna be more la 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 land. So because there should be like really strong, like powerful statements said, and things should be done, because as I mentioned before, the money is the only thing what matters in this part of the world, and we live in this like super capitalism where, you know, if you earn more money, you are the better person. So if you earn less money, you are the worst person. So,
but
and this is actually the true about the food. So yeah, the people can afford and can't afford. So yeah.
But do you see that you will be forced to educate your colleagues, like, for example, how to make this fish tasty or that plant eatable?
Yeah, we are already doing that. Like chefs all around the world, it's a trend now as well. So we are doing that. But this is a restaurant business. It's not a fast food business. You know, this is different types of businesses. And as a chefs, we are more seeable. We speak more, but we are not producing so much. So this is why I'm saying then, yeah, the supermarket or the, you know, like mass production food, the sausage making, they can put some things in, or meat factories, they can do that, or the like huge, you know, Dutch, you know, carrot growers, they can do the bigger impact than we as a chefs.
But they will do it only when the consumers will ask, or they will say that we will do it only when consumers ask.
It's all about price. It's all about price. If the Dutch carrot will cost 10 cents per kilo and the local organically grown carrot will cost €2, there is no doubt they will buy the Dutch. That's the answer.
Mm-hmm. How do you see the change? How fast they will happen, or how visible?
First of all, I think it's so important to do locally and think globally. And as today I just worked in laboratory with this growing media, new growing media from byproducts from industry and recultivation process from the lakes. And I'm producing this product, and I work with the business people with the new products and for these substrates and fertilizers. It's happening, and it will happen more and more in Latvia and Europe and globally. But yeah, how soon it will happen, we'll see. It's just like, it's philosophy now.
But you mostly work in laboratory and everything in your research career, most like how to address people when they start to produce something to make our food, like on land with agriculture or something. I know that some of your colleagues, maybe in not the same laboratory, but they still work, for example, how to make cocktails from algae drinkable, and then actually with them we just have all the nutrients what we need. Do you see that soon we will be drinking algae cocktails instead of orange juice?
I hope. Yeah, my colleagues as well are working with the food industry, and I will be next week in a Riga food exhibition, and I will see, I think, a lot of new things what people are made in universities and in their businesses, new things, and in our laboratory is happening a lot of things connected to food industry as well.
Is it still like in research level, or it's already?
No, it's not only in the research level. We will, for example, next week I will meet businessmen and we will talk about this new produced product in our laboratory, and it's a very interesting product. Hopefully you will see it soon in the shops as well.
So you could say that the interest from business sector is quite high for what is happening, and they're like ready to take everything from researchers quite away.
Yes, for example, I work in the university as a researcher and expert in technology transfer group. My work is every day I have a meeting with people from the businesses in Latvia and from Europe as well. And they are very interested in these products, research. They want to have this science-based products. They want to have this quality, that it works, and they are so interested. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, it's too much, but you just do it and work more and more, and it's so interesting. Yeah, it's happening. In University of Latvia, in Riga Technical University, in University of Agriculture, Latvian University, they are doing a really good job. And I hope that really in in 3 years, in 5 years, you will go to the supermarket and you will see these products.
So very optimistic is 3 or 5 years.
I think it will happen, yes.
Mm-hmm.
My answer is like Sandra said, depends on the mood, being positive or negative. And today is Friday afternoon and I want to have some nice ideas, and I don't expect that my diet will change in my rest of my lifetime. But what I would expect, and I would love to witness, that my diet would be produced, or the products I consume, with much, much less impact on environment, our water systems, biodiversity, soil systems, and climate. So it's not necessarily always you have to change your diet to have a good impact. It's how you produce it as well. So I'm hardly imagine I will be kind of proud drinker of algae cocktail unless there is some gin added or anything else.
So you actually more focus that you will still eat the same products you are eating today, but they will be produced in different ways.
As Martin said, people are conservative, and I am, but I am open to new. But I will have to change habits. But I don't think that the time frame I'm talking about. Of course, maybe it will happen so quickly, but the real stuff is also on the other end as well. There is no reason not to act to decrease the pressure of food system on the environment, and there is no reason to be slow not to solve food system impact on your health.
Sandra, we want to address you as well, the final words in this discussion. So we heard so many things, and how do you see these changes happening? How fast, how slow, or do you go more for Uji's this opinion that actually you will have the same products just made in different way, or you think that we will have completely exotic diet in nearest future already?
I don't think our diet will be completely exotic, but I think the next 10 years will be crucial for change. And in a way, it's simple. We have to change. We have no choice. Otherwise, we face extinction, not only from the planet, but maybe most of all for people. So I'm with Ugis again. This Friday afternoon, I choose to be optimistic. I see a lot of movements at the same time. I think we are facing a lot of conflicts as well, from old habits, facing innovations, hopeful people, facing people that want to leave everything the way it is. But yeah, I'm part of the new movement, so I choose to be optimistic. I have to be optimistic.
So thank you for your optimism. I hope that we are all optimistic, but not forgetting that, of course, each actually our activity in our everyday life, each our choice is that how we vote, yeah, for environmentally friendly food, for sustainable food, and we are changing the system. So thank you all. I would like to thank Mārtiņš Sirmais, our chef and also owner of three Pavāru restaurants in Latvian. Uģis Rotbergs represents WWF member in Latvia, and also scientist, and Vaira Obuka, researcher from Latvian University, environmental scientist. And thank you, Sandra, as well, joining us from Netherlands. Sandra van Kampen, food expert, also were with us, showing us examples from Netherlands that, of course, we can just take also in account in Latvia. Thank you for watching and being with us, and goodbye.